Should you buy the DJI Wireless Mic or the Rode Wireless Go system? I'm gonna make this dead easy for you.
Great success!
The DJI Mic is better designed. It comes with more straight out the box, it's more intuitive, it works better, has far superior range, and it's cheaper. Real talk for a second. This video is going to be a lot longer than what I normally like to post. I've got a ton of information to share with you, a lot of which I really haven't seen talked about many other places. I'm not an audio technician, an audio engineer, anything like that. This whole video is going to focus on the user experience, the features, the range, that kind of thing. This is how this thing actually works out in the real world. So if you're a one-man band or a small team, talking about why this is such a better system compared to the Rode Wireless Go. I'll try and chapter everything along the bottom here so you can skip around if you need to. Also, the range tests are very interesting, and I encourage you to watch that. If not for anything else, I'll put that towards the end of the video. But in general, this is going to be a great video for you to watch if you are looking at either the Rode Wireless Go 2 or the DJI Mic system. So let's get back into it. Now, I've been using the Rode Wireless Go system pretty much since it launched. It's been fantastic. It's budget friendly, it's accessible for everybody, very easy to use. Somewhere in the last year, I started getting a ton of peaking issues with this. Even when it's set to the lowest point, I get lots of peaking. So when I saw DJI come out with their version of a wireless system, I knew I wanted to try it out. And although I do work with DJI, this I bought with my own money. Straight out the box, immediately felt like this was just a big upgrade over the Rode system. So much so, in fact, that I ended up buying a secondary one, which we'll get into why later. But what about this makes it feel so much better? I have a list. This one straight away is going to seal the deal for you already. When you open the lid, it automatically turns the unit on. If you close the lid, it turns it off again, completely automatically. Now, if you forget to close the lid, it does turn itself off automatically within about a minute or so, and then there is power switches on everything, so you can turn it back on that way. To continue on from that, when I open this and it turns itself on, and I take this immediately out the case, the transmitter starts recording automatically. When I put it back in, it stops recording automatically. I can also stop recording anytime because there is a recording button on the side as well. And I know what you're thinking, the Rode can do exactly the same thing. As soon as you turn it on, it starts recording. But let me show you the process for the Rode versus the DJI system. Transmitter and receiver, I'm going to turn them both on. Mine's set up to automatically record, and now it's recording. So you saw how long that was. To do the same thing with the DJI, open, it's recording. A recording button is a double-edged sword. If someone accidentally pushes it, it can stop the recording, and if you needed that, that's going to be a problem. There's actually a recording stop lock you can set in the menus, and that just completely disables that recording button from starting recording or stopping recording. The only way to stop it is to put it back in the case, so you're the only person that can stop that recording. You can also set a vibration, so a little bit of haptic feedback when you hit that record button and you push it again to stop recording. It lets you know it's starting and then stopping. That can be really useful. Next up, when you open the case, you are immediately greeted by how much recording time is left on all of the transmitters, as well as the battery life of everything. To do the same thing on the Rode system, you have to turn everything on, and then you can view it on the screen right there. It's just a much slower process. That's just a better design in general. Next up, this is a charging case, and this comes with it. The Rode system comes in this. Now, you can buy a charging system. This one is from ZG Cine. It's huge. Doesn't come with it, you gotta buy that yourself. And if you compare the transmitters to each other, that is the DJI one, and then that is the Rode one. So it's a lot smaller for the transmitter too. On the Talent, just looks smaller. If you're wondering about the range on each of these and how it performs, I'll talk about that more towards the end of the video. Magnets, it has a magnetic attachment on the transmitter itself. Does the Rode have that? Now you can buy one for the Rode, but doesn't come with one. This comes with one. Quick little ad break just to pay some bills. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Chances are if you're watching this video, you're either in the video or photo world, and there's gonna be aspects that you have to learn when you first get started that are pretty boring, but you need to know about them to be successful. You probably know by now, but Skillshare is an online learning platform with thousands upon thousands of classes, literally about anything and everything that you can take at your own convenience. There's no ads like you get on YouTube to interrupt you, to kind of ruin that flow of learning. Now, I'm actually pretty bad at the business sides of things when it comes to running businesses. I'm more of a creative person. My wife is the business admin sides of things. But if you're on your own, you're gonna need to learn that stuff. You just search video business, video production, business, success, and growth. This class has a huge number of topics. They break it down really well, and it's information that you need to know about, that you need to learn to make your business successful. Things like why you need to wear multiple hats, which areas you might want to go into in the video world. Definitely give that class a watch if you're just getting started in this industry. If you're looking at getting into weddings, I have a wedding class on there, which you can also take for free, as I said, using the link below. Hot topic right now, short form content. If you're not jumping on that, you should be. There's a whole class on there dedicated purely around making short form content. If you want to take any of the classes that I just talked about or anything else on there that tickles your fancy, click on the link down below to get your first month of Skillshare free. Thank you Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. This next one's really handy, and I actually found it out by accident. If you have a 3.5mm plugged in to the output, which is going into your camera, which you probably are, and you accidentally unplug that, it gives you a little error message on there that basically means you have to confirm that you're okay with it not being plugged into the camera, which I'm going to guess you're probably not. You have to just tap on that and then it'll go away. It's just a nice little confirmation that it has come unplugged. Another little nice notice, if you have a lapel mic plugged into the transmitter, you'll see it changes from a little speaker symbol on the receiver there to a little mic symbol, just letting you know that a mic is now plugged in. If you now remove that, you will see it changes back to a speaker. So you know visually, even if this is nowhere near you, whether your lapel is still plugged in or not. And now I've had my lapel come unplugged on the road before, and I was stupidly not monitoring the audio, but I didn't find out till in post. So it's just a nice little visual notice. If I want to get the audio files off of this transmitter, I just plug it into a computer via USB-C, and I can just drag and drop them to wherever I want. I'm good to go straight away. With the Rode, I have to install the Rode Central app, plug this in, export the file from there, and then I can do something with it. So it's just a more tedious process. This is immediate, this is not. This little thing right here is fully touchscreen, so I can control all my settings directly on the receiver. My receiver, my transmitter gain, the brightness of the unit itself, the recording stop lock, literally everything directly on the unit. If I want to use both of these transmitters at the same time, I can have a mix in stereo, or I can have a mono output where one is on the left, one is on the right channel, but I can also change which one is on which channel. I can also have one as a lower dB backup channel. I can change all that directly on this unit right here using the touchscreen. I can do exactly the same thing on the Rode system, but I can't change any of that on here. I have to plug this into a computer via USB-C or the app and then change it that way. I can't do it on the unit itself. That makes this way more practical, not having to rely on anything else, and also a lot quicker to change. You'll also notice that inside the box here, charging case, you actually have two adapters for your phone. One is a Lightning and one is a USB-C. If I take that out, and let's say one of the transmitters that I want to use with my phone, I can then take off the cold shoe adapter, and there's a little arrow there, there's a little arrow on top of whichever USB-C or Lightning adapter you're using. Slide that on, like so. This will now go into the bottom of my phone. This is a transmitter which picked up by the phone, and now I have better quality audio on my phone for content on the go. Included in that kit. You don't get any of that with this. You can do the same thing with the Rode. I actually have it all here, but I need this cable, this Lightning adapter, and that doesn't come with it. I had to buy that myself. If you like this video so far, consider subscribing. There's no contract involved. You can unsubscribe at any time. I appreciate it. Let's talk about some quick similarities between both of these before we get onto the all-important range tests. Both of these can record audio directly onto the transmitters as a backup. The Rode can do compressed audio of around 43 hours plus, and the DJI can do up to about 15. This transmitter will last about 5.5 hours on its individual built-in battery, and the receiver will actually go for about 5 hours. With the charging case, in total, you get about 15 hours. The Rode system as a whole, if everything is turned on, you'll get roughly 7 hours before you do have to charge everything. And if you don't have a charging case, then you need 3 USB-C cables to charge everything. So let's get on to the range test. Now, on paper, the Rode Wireless Go 2 is meant to do 200 meters, whereas the DJI Mic system will do 250 meters. The Wireless Go 1 will do 70, in case you're wondering. Both of these are line of sight. And what does that mean? It essentially means that the receiver and the transmitter have to be able to see each other with nothing blocking the way. Anything blocking the way or getting in the way could cause interference, and it's drastically going to drop that distance down. Both of these mics work off of the 2.4 gigahertz band. Now, I actually wanted to have a control, so something I knew would perform very well consistently in this test as well, so I opted to use the Sennheiser AVX system, which is considered a pro-level system. This is arguably, could be considered a prosumer system. So 2.4 gigahertz band, this is 1.9 gigahertz. What makes this more pro? Well, we'll chat more about that later. The range on this is actually lesser than this, apparently only 30 meters, but I know it does perform a little bit better than that. I apologize in advance, but you are going to be jumping between me, Chris, present Chris, and previous in the past Chris to go over these results. So for the range tests, I performed a variety of different experiments. Now for the lazy person that I am, I just thought, oh, I'll put them side by side, record at the same time, and we'll be fine. In terms of how we are recording, DJI Mic is going into my Tascam DR10L. The main master mic is going directly into the camera, that's the Sennheiser AVX. And then the Rode Wireless Go is going into the
H1N.
without realizing that that actually poses a problem because both this and the Rode work off of 2.4 gigahertz, which means they technically could interfere with each other, and they did. So despite being on a completely open golf course, line of sight, within a matter of meters, the Rode system just cut out, stopped working, completely not usable. The DJI did continue a little bit further, but it still struggled, and it would render the audio pretty much useless if you needed to use it.
I'm still working, getting wet.
The AVX system performed better, got further, but it doesn't have the best range compared to these systems, so after a while that did stop too. Now I didn't realize this till I got to the edit, but it did kind of render that test a failure, but this is important for you to know the fact that they both work on the same band. So second test at this point, still not aware that there are going to be issues between the Rode and the DJI when I get into the edit, but I picked a bridge that was long and obviously had line of sight, but the metal on either side of it, I knew it was going to cause interference. I did that on purpose. But within like 10 feet, the Rode just stopped working. Completely useless.
These mics. Camera set up with Garrett over here, and we're just gonna walk and see how far we can get.
The DJI continued.
Still got audio on there, Garrett? Still got audio.
And then the Rode somehow managed to pick itself back up again. It was fighting for some signal and it got it. And then the Rode cut out again.
Yep. I mean, this is directly line of sight, so...
And the DJI continued to work, even when I was turned around. Didn't have technically line of sight, but it was pretty much just a straight line just with my back turned.
Can you hear me still, or just interference? Yep. Okay. So, I wonder about the other two mics.
And the Sennheiser AVX got pretty far, much further than its 30-meter range, but ultimately ended up biting the bullet and not doing well as well.
All right, so here's...
Probably because of the interference, but that's exactly why I picked this metal bridge. And then when I got to the edit, I realized that that was also a pretty useless test, but still good for you to know about. Okay, so for a test that we can actually get some usable results from, we picked an open field, threw a drone up in the air, and measured it's roughly about 106 meters. That's how far we're going to test these mics out. Did two separate tests. First time with the Rode system, second time with the DJI system. A variety of me turning around and facing the camera so it's line of sight, and then turning around away from the camera where it's not line of sight. Did the Rode system first and then the DJI so they're not interfering with each other. And at the same time as doing both of those tests, we used the Sennheiser AVX system because it's different bands, so it's not going to interfere. So the Rode system performed much better than with the other tests. It got about halfway, so roughly 50 meters, and was fine, but then when I turned around,
1, 2...
and it technically wasn't line of sight, it did start to have interruption issues and we weren't getting a clear signal. And then as we got further away from that 50-meter mark, the Rode started to become more and more intermittent.
Service, signal, we're quite far away.
To the point where the audio just really wasn't any good. It wasn't usable at all. Now the DJI system on the same test performed significantly better. Line of sight, it pretty much went the entire length with no issues whatsoever.
Pretty far distance. That concludes the test with the DJI Wireless Mic.
Now when I got towards the end of the field and turned around, the DJI system definitely had a couple of little quirks.
Oh, it's hot. Right at the end of the field.
Which would make the audio technically not usable, so that is something to look at as well. But this is when I was turned around, so not line of sight. So if you want to just compare straight Rode to DJI, same test, the DJI performed substantially better for distances and for not line of sight compared to the Rode. Now the Sennheiser AVX system performed flawlessly for both of these tests. Despite having a range of 30 meters, it went that full 106 meter distance. When I was turned around, when I was line of sight, no issues whatsoever.
I'm assuming we're good, but we won't find out till the edit.
And then I had one more test I wanted to do to see. 2 DJI systems.
Yes, I have 2. Why do I have 2? Well, because of this guy. He is what I would consider the person making the best wedding films out there right now.
Here's to you, here's to me, here's to 21, here's to 23, here's to Jake and Casey, they'll always be.
They're like Netflix documentaries for a wedding. And he lapel mics so many people throughout a day, and I'm interested in trying that out. Wanted to try out 2 wireless systems. That's why I want to do this test. You probably don't care. This test was more for me. They both actually performed pretty well. There were a couple of instances where it seemed like one was trying to overpower the other, and there was a couple of interference issues towards the end of the field, and when I turned around.
2 separate DJI mics from 2 separate DJI mic systems. Not the same receivers.
But it wasn't at the same time, there was always one continuously working. But in general, definitely way better performance than a DJI versus the Rode at the same time. So if you are looking at using more than 2 wireless mics at a prosumer level, definitely go for 2 DJI systems versus 2 Rode systems.
or a Rode and a DJI system. Now, 2.4 gigahertz is actually a very crowded band when it comes to things working on it. In this office right now, I can tell you that this remote, this aperture remote for controlling the lights, that's 2.4 gigahertz because it actually says on it somewhere here, 2.4 gigahertz right at the top. Also, the Wi-Fi in my house go into multiple things in this room. Again, 2.4 gigahertz. If you have a cordless phone, 2.4. If you have a baby monitor, 2.4. Bluetooth also works off of the 2.4 gigahertz. So Bluetooth coming from my phone to a speaker or whatever. So it is a very congested band, and both the Rode and the DJI system know how to handle it and work within that with everything else going on. But the DJI definitely does a better job compared to the Rode. Little update here on this. I've actually shot 3 different weddings now with this system, and I've had 0 issues with this actually losing connection through a wedding. Obviously it records on board anyway, so I wasn't too worried, but I wanted to see if it would work, and it did. Flawlessly. With however many people were there, most of which probably had a cell phone, most of which probably had Bluetooth turned on, no interference issues whatsoever. So if you're looking at using this for weddings, highly recommend. So it is very important to note that 2.4 gigahertz is crowded, and if you're in a situation where there's a ton of other 2.4 gigahertz things working, there is always going to be the potential that you might have issues with either of these. And that's where a system like the Sennheiser AVX could come into play, because this works off of the 1.9 gigahertz band. Much less crowded and completely future-proof. Obviously in the tests, this had a 30-meter range, but it performed much better than that. So what makes this more of a pro system than either the Rode or the DJI? XLR for a start on the transmitter. This has a built-in battery life of about 5 hours, and this receiver has 15 hours of battery life. But because this is XLR, it can detect phantom power, which means it will turn on and off automatically if this is plugged in via XLR. So that will save you a ton of battery, never needing to turn it on or off. The camera does it for you. It does come with this little adapter, which allows you to basically attach it to a cold shoe on the top of your camera as well. It also comes with an XLR to 3.5mm, so if you want to use it the same way you can with these systems, then you can do that too. On top of that, both of these have replaceable batteries and they have charging ports, so you can actually power these while they're plugged in via the mains or portable power. So they're basically unlimited power if you have them plugged in. Albeit, in fact, they are micro USB, not USB-C. This system actually has auto mic level control in it as well. So you have a lot less issues with peaking, or if someone's whispering, it adjusts the levels for you so you don't have to do it yourself. There is a manual control you can do on the receiver as well, but for the most part, it's all entirely automatic, which is really, really useful. You just don't need to worry about it. It just works. And like I tested with the DJI system, if you want to have 2 of the same system running, you can. There's a couple of little issues. With this, you won't have issues. You can run up to 8 of these simultaneously within the same area with no interference issues. And if it starts to detect problems with interference from something, it will boost the power of the transmitter to try and resolve those issues for you. On top of that, something else that makes this a little bit more pro is the fact that you can screw in the lapel mic, and it won't come out by accident. If the talent pulls it out, it gets caught in their shirt or something like that. So this is a pro level system with lots of features that you probably don't think about in these. This is going to be something you can rely on if you need to. So if you're worried that the DJI system or the Rode system is just not going to cut it for you, highly recommend picking up a Sennheiser AVX system. Thank you, Sennheiser, for sending that through like 3 months ago now. I've been using this a ton for all my real estate work. This is what I choose for pro level work because it's a pro level piece of gear. They also sent through this beautiful mic, which you can't see in frame. This is the MK600. So if you like how it sounds, then that's because of that glorious thing. So to sum up the video, if you're looking for a wireless prosumer mic, definitely buy the DJI. Don't bother with the Rode anymore, especially as this is cheaper, more functional, more features, easier to use. You get more bang for your buck for less money than you do with the Rode Wireless Go 2 system. That's it. That's all I've got for you today. Actually, there's not. There's one issue I have with the DJI system. Just one little thing. You get this beautiful little case, right? Comes like that. And then they just put it in this little bag, this pouch. Like, what is this? Why do I want this? There's a cable you need to use, and there's 2 little things that clip onto the top of the mics to stop the wind. Why was there no way to figure out a way to just have these attached to the case or something like that? Instead, I have to put it all in this silly little pouch, and there's a pocket in there which just, you forget it's there, and then you're like, oh, where's my stuff gone? That happens to me all the time. It just goes in there, and it's just, no, it just ruins the whole thing. I would love to figure out a way for them to attach the cable to there. Maybe have it feed out the side. I don't know. There's got to be a way. If you can come up with all the tech that you've come up with in this,
How do you just decide to include that? It's something minor. It's probably just me that cares about it more than anyone else, but that's that.